Perfect. So welcome everyone. We are pleased to have you join us for this webinar on connecting environmental employers with fresh talent across Canada. We're doing this in partnership with Eco Canada. My name is Megan Poss and I'm the Executive Director of Leading Change Canada. I'm calling in today from Montreal or Tiohtià:ke, the traditional and unceded land of the Kanien'kehá:ka people. For many on the line, this may be your first touch point with Leading Change. So for your benefit, we are a national not-for-profit that supports young Canadians between the ages of 19 and 35. And we work in a unique constellation model with 3 other leading sustainability organizations, the Delphi Group, Globe Series, and the Excel Partnership. We each have our own respective missions and leadership, but we share a common vision, and that vision is a sustainable, prosperous, and socially just future within a generation. So part of achieving this vision is ensuring that today's young people are equipped to access and thrive in a low carbon workforce. And that's one reason we're so excited to be partnering with Eco Canada. For over 20 years, they've been connecting environmental employers and skilled talent through employment services and support services. And on today's call, you'll learn about some of the environmental career services as well as some upcoming opportunities. So before we get started, just a few quick housekeeping items. We will be recording this session, so it will be available afterwards for those that have a tendency to furiously take notes. As for format, Eco Canada will be presenting about 40 minutes of content, and then we want to get to your questions. So feel free to add your questions into the chat while you're listening. We'll aim to answer as many as we can in the later portion of the call. Make sure you're sending your chat messages to all participants so that we can see them. And if you're having any technical issues, you can also ask those in the chat, and our wonderful tech support will help you out. And we encourage you also to chat with one another if you've got any kind of tips, experiences, or things that you want to share. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers. This webinar will be co-led by Eco Canada's Arbaiza Jamaluddin and Hannah Williamson. Arbaiza is the acquisitions coordinator for Eco Canada. She's a concierge guiding clients, hosts, and members through Eco Canada's resources. Her goal is to provide you with the best client experience and engage with you on a closer level to build relationships and trust. Hannah is the events and training coordinator for Eco Canada. She leads, plans, develops, and delivers Eco Canada's events and webinar programs. So welcome, Arbaiza and Hannah, and I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Megan, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you to Leading Change for letting us come here and speak to you all today. So bear with me while I just share my screen. Okay, perfect. So today's webinar is going to focus on some of the challenges and opportunities facing Canada's environmental sector and how you can set yourself up for success in your environmental career. So this is just a short overview of what we're going to cover today. So we'll give you a quick introduction to Eco Canada, who we are and what we do. And then we're going to look at our labour market information, which is our latest research into the current trends and predicted opportunities in Canada's environmental sector over the next 10 years. We'll then take a quick look at what employers are looking for in terms of skills. Then we want to look at virtual event and training opportunities. And then I'm going to hand over to Arbaiza, who's going to talk about our employment programs and how we can help you reduce barriers to employment. And we'll be hearing some success stories from some of our lovely employers as well. So first, a little bit about Eco Canada. We are the steward for the Canadian environmental workforce across all sectors and industries. We champion the end-to-end career development of environmental professionals, and not only do we train and certify, but our in-house labour market research helps us understand the trends and opportunities in Canada's environmental sector, and it helps us to tailor our programs and services to you, environmental professionals and employers. So everything that we do at Eco Canada is really geared towards driving and promoting sustainable economic growth and ensuring that environmental care and best practice is always a priority in everything that we do. So what does that look like? This slide just is a quick representation of some of the programs and services that we offer at Eco Canada. So it's just a good representation of how we support the end-to-end career of an environmental professional. So right from kind of graduating in your educational programs right through to retirement. So some of our programs are geared towards more junior professionals. We have our BEAR Indigenous Training Program, which is all about blending traditional and Western knowledge in community training. We also accredit post-secondary programs to make sure that we have consistency across Canada. And then we have a suite of wage funding programs ranging from co-op placements to full-time wage funding, which Arbaiza is going to talk about in a little bit more detail later on. And then at EcoCanada, we also offer Canada's only national environmental designation. And there's different levels of that membership, that designation that we offer. Our environmental professional in training is geared towards more junior professionals starting out in the sector. Those with 5 to 10 years experience can apply to become an environmental professional. And then we also have a designation specifically for people involved in environmental auditing. And as you get towards the end of your career, we also have lots of things like task forces, steering groups, and emeritus membership that you can get involved in. So what I want to start off with today is looking at one of the pillars of our work at EcoCanada, which is our labour market research. And this is done in-house. We have an in-house research team who work on a number of projects to analyse and quantify Canada's environmental workforce. And this research helps us to identify the challenges and opportunities that are facing green workers in Canada. And it helps us, as I said, at EcoCanada to tailor our services to make sure that they're really working for environmental professionals and environmental employers. Our latest research report was published earlier this month, and it's called From Recession to Recovery, Environmental and Hiring Trends in the Decade to Come. And it looks at over the next 10 years, what are the trends going to be in the environmental workforce? So I just want to run through some of the key findings today, and particularly thinking about what are the opportunities are for you guys on the line in terms of job growth and job opportunities. So stakeholders have looked to EcoCanada for nearly 30 years to estimate the size of the environmental workforce and what the hiring needs are going to be. Our latest Demand 2029 Outlook report covers who is the environmental workforce in 2019, the sectoral shifts and opportunities for environmental workers both nationally and provincially, what the demand for workers by occupation is going to be, and then it draws some conclusions and makes some recommendations. So our goal through our research is to inform decision makers, so government, employers, educators, trainers, and job seekers and students too. And all of our research is available to download from eco.ca. It's absolutely free, and I recommend if you want, we're going to do quite a high level run through today, but if you want the detail around methodology, perhaps some provincial outlooks, you can go to the website and download the full report for free. So before I talk about Outlook and what we found, I want to first talk about who is the environmental workforce. And that's really the first question that we had to answer at EcoCanada when we started to look at quantifying the environmental workforce over the next 10 years. And as you can imagine, Canada's environmental sector is so broad. It's got workers in, diverse and kind of different industries and sectors all across the country. So in 2019, we actually changed our approach to how we quantify and understand who is the environmental workforce in Canada. And it's quite complex. I'll try and explain it in as simple as possible, but basically we look at two different groups of workers that you can see here on the slide. So we have core environmental workers, and this is any worker that, regardless of industry, requires specific environmental competencies or education to undertake their role. The second group of workers is those included in the environmental goods and services sector. So slightly different regardless of their specific role and whether it may not need environmental education or competencies to complete it. They perhaps work for an organization who delivers environmental goods and services. So even though they're not specific environmental roles, they're contributing to the environmental sector. So to try and explain that a little bit better, for example, with our core workers, an example would be a sustainability manager working at a mining firm. They have specific education and qualifications that they apply to their role every day. For the goods and services workers, this would be something like an accountant working at a clean tech firm. So their background and education is in accountancy. It's not in an environmental competency, but they work for a clean tech firm which delivers an environmental purpose. So they're also included in our outlook. So when we're talking about the environmental workforce today, we've combined those two different groups of workers, and that's how we at EcoCanada define the environmental workforce. So this slide is just a quick snapshot. So what does the environmental workforce in Canada look like? So around 62% of environmental workers are aged 44 years and younger. And around 25% are women, 6.3% are Indigenous persons. So we know that there's some work to do with diversity. And around 28% of people are working in managerial roles. And in the green box, it just shows some of the top industries and sectors who employ environmental workers. So we have agriculture, construction, professional and scientific services, waste management, remediation, and public administration as just some of the top ones. But as we said, it's so broad. Okay, so on to the good stuff. This is the highlights of our most recent report. So our research has shown that 1 in 30 workers in Canada is an environmental worker. This equates to around 620,000 workers in 2019. And of the 620,000 workers, around 46% are classed as those core workers that we were talking about. Environmental workers are present in every Canadian province and territory. However, reflecting the general employment populations in Canada, the most environmental workers are found in Ontario, followed by Quebec, Alberta, and British Columbia. So a big part of our research is looking at what's going to happen over the next 10 years. And we are predicting that there are going to be opportunities in the environmental sector up to 2029. So we split this into kind of two streams. So we're predicting that there will be some moderate growth, around 8.1% or 50,000 new jobs that will be created over the next 10 years. Now, whilst that's going to be split across all industries and sectors, we're predicting particular growth in things like clean energy, clean tech, sustainable transport, and conservation. So that's one arch, and that's the new jobs that will be created. The other element that we look at, and the larger opportunity, is environmental workers that will come from gradual retirement of the existing workforce. So over 180,000 jobs in the next 10 years will come from retirement of existing workers. So that's around 30% of the current workforce is going to retire over the next 10 years. So as you can imagine, that does represent a big opportunity, particularly in mid to senior level roles and for people wanting to progress their career, but also for current and future kind of job seekers as well. If you're looking to get into the environmental sector now, it's worth knowing that those opportunities are going to be coming up over the next 10 years. So we combine those together to give us our complete outlook for the next 10 years, which is 230,000 job postings that are going to need to be filled. So as a job seeker, that's great. That sounds like a massive opportunity, and it is, and we'll talk about how you kind of take advantage of that later. But it's also worth noting it represents a challenge too for employers. So as employers, you're facing the loss of, staff with lots of specific skills, knowledge, and experience, and it's about finding workers who can fill that gap with the relevant skills and experience. So this is just another way of looking at that data, looking at it by role. So as you can see, opportunities will exist in every job family over the next decade. But what we're really looking at is those top 3 categories, and they represent nearly 70% of all the estimated jobs. So management occupations, natural and applied sciences, business and finance administration represent nearly 160,000 jobs over the next 10 years. And as you can see from the table on the right, it just breaks down some of those key job kind of families. So administrative jobs, senior managers in kind of different fields, engineers and inspectors are some of the biggest areas where we're anticipating a hiring need. So this slide really just breaks down our outlook by region and by territory. So the good news is that every province and territory in Canada will need environmental workers over the next 10 years. As we mentioned before, we expect the bulk of that demand to be in Ontario. Around 40% of the total openings will be in Ontario. That's about 90,000 jobs. But interestingly enough, what we're expecting for Alberta is they will see the most new job creation. So around 14% or 14,000 new jobs are anticipated to be created in Alberta. So we said every territory, every province has environmental workers, and that's true. So the Northwest Territories and the Yukon actually have the highest proportion of environmental workers compared to their total workforce. And that really just reflects kind of the high prominence of natural resources and environmental work up in the Northwest Territories. But all across the rest of the country, environmental jobs will mostly come from business investment from government initiatives. And if you're interested in more information about your particular province or region, we do have a detailed breakdown for each province. Please reach out after the presentation, and I'm happy to kind of share that with you. It's good to know kind of where you're thinking of working or living, what the opportunities are going to be. So on to the kind of conclusions and what that means. So we talked about this a bit earlier. It's kind of a bit of a scale. There's an opportunity for job seekers and people entering the field, but there's also challenges in terms of the loss of that skill and that knowledge from retiring workers. So what do we do, and how do we as the environmental sector tackle that challenge? And that's kind of really what we're focusing on this slide. We break down our recommendations into different stakeholder groups, because different stakeholder groups are going to have to meet those challenges or opportunities differently. So employers are going to be amongst the most significantly affected, and they need to prepare for that loss of knowledge and skills. As they look to attract new workers, they should look to diversify and prepare candidates for more senior roles, and look to considering diverse candidates like women, youth, Indigenous and immigrant workers, who often have high skill levels and experience. Employers should also look at how they can retain staff as well. So making sure that staff are motivated, they're given the adequate training to be able to progress, and looking to their professional development to make sure staff are satisfied and aren't looking to move on to the next opportunity. Now, for workers and students, this study represents a massive opportunity, and it highlights where the greatest prospects for green jobs are likely to be in the next 10 years. So your role as a kind of a student or a job seeker is to make sure you're positioned to take advantage of these opportunities. So networking events, getting out, getting visibility and making yourself known in the sector is going to be really important. Work placement programs, wage funding are also another great way to set yourself out from the crowd and help distinguish yourself. And Arbaiza is going to talk about that at the end of the presentation. And these can all be valuable ways to make connection, gain experience, and help you kind of kickstart that environmental career. The third stakeholder group I want to talk about briefly is stakeholders and educators and trainers. And they're going to have a big role in helping to fill that skills gap that we talked about. So making sure that workers have the relevant skills to fill the gaps in the environmental workforce. So they should be helping workers and students prepare for an increasingly digitized workforce. The prominence of digital skills is going to be really important over the next 10 years. And they should be looking to incorporate environmental knowledge and competencies into curriculum so that, that basic environmental understanding is more widespread. The final set of recommendations is for government and regulators. So there's a need for government to continue to support and drive the development of the green economy through programs, research, initiatives to help make it easier for employers and companies to fill those skill gaps. So again, that was a real whistle-stop tour through kind of our LMI output. Again, you can download this research report or all of our research reports at our EcoCanada website, absolutely free. And if you have any specific questions, we'll have some time at the end, or please feel free to reach out after the presentation as well. Now, before talking about kind of our programs and services, the last thing I wanted to focus on was some of the skills that have been identified as necessary to have a successful career in the environmental sector. So at EcoCanada, another kind of aspect of our research is to understand what it is that employers consider important when hiring environmental employees. So there's two skills on the slide here, knowledge and technical skills and soft skills. And these were the two main groups that came out when we surveyed our employers. I'll talk about the industry knowledge and technical skills first. And employers indicated that industry knowledge is the most important technical area for employers to receive training in. Things like health and safety, policy and legislation, public awareness, sustainability principles are all things that they were looking for in terms of formal education, training certificates. So they were kind of very important to employers. But the second group of skills is what I really want to focus on today. And these are the soft skills, or what we call the essential skills. And these are typically skills that are developed outside of a formal academic setting. They're not typically taught. And And our research has shown that it's common for junior professionals or people entering the sector to often be lacking in skills like technical writing, effective communication, teamwork and collaboration, because you don't learn that as part of your degree generally. But these skills are very, very important to employers. And they're really important if you want to kind of build your environmental career. So the technical competencies and your formal education is likely what's going to get your foot in the door, but the soft skills, essential skills, are what allow you to develop and progress in your career. And they're also very important to help you kind of secure your first job. And we'll talk a bit hopefully about transferable skills in the Q&A as well, but it shows an employer what sort of an employee you're going to be if you're strong in the essential skills. Okay, now that we've talked about the opportunities over the next 10 years, I want to talk about some of the ways that Eco-Canada can help and address this skill and labours gap. So I'm sure there's no one on the line who isn't familiar with virtual opportunities, virtual networking, virtual events, or with the fact that COVID-19 has had massive socioeconomic effects over this last year. And like many organizations, COVID-19 really caused us at Eco-Canada to change the way we were thinking and working slightly. So we've spent the last few months pivoting a lot of our programs and services into a virtual format so that we can continue to support environmental professionals and employers, through COVID-19. And actually what we're finding and what I firmly believe is that virtual is here to stay. I feel like COVID-19 has opened up a world of innovation and opportunities. And even when, social distancing and restriction ends, I feel like the virtual, arena for events and training is still going to be there, and it's still going to be an important factor. So I want to talk today about some opportunities that we have at Eco-Canada for you guys to get involved. The first I want to talk about is our upcoming career fair on November 25th. Now we're partnering with a virtual software provider to offer a fully interactive, immersive experience. And we're going to be bringing together employers, professionals, job seekers, and students from all across Canada. We're expecting over 1,000 attendees on the day, and job seekers, and from across the country, we're expecting around 20 employers. I want to talk about we're using the VFairs platform, which is just shown on the image there. It's fully interactive and customizable, and it tries really hard to recreate that career fair experience from the comfort of your own home. So you get multiple different interactive rooms that you can navigate to. You can engage with employers as actual virtual booths and a virtual trade show. You can watch a series of technical webinars that we're going to be putting on, and you can network with your fellow attendees and with the employers as well. So the platform allows you to connect through multiple options. There'll be chat rooms, one-on-one, text and video chat, and you can also do small group chats as well. So it's a great way to try and get some networking in during this time where, traditional face-to-face events aren't happening. And one of the best things about going virtual is that all of the content is going to be recorded and made available to everybody who attended or registered up to 30 days after the event ends. So you don't have to kind of sit there all day and watch all the webinars. You can kind of pick and choose the engagement you want to do, the webinars you want to watch, and still have access to all of that great content up to 30 days afterwards. So just to go into a little bit more about what's in it if you're an employer. Of course, traditional hiring events and career fairs aren't happening right now due to COVID-19. So this is a really innovative and easy way to kind of continue to get that engagement and exposure. Our platform gives you a fully customizable branded booth that you're able to design and create so it really reflects your brand and your story. And this includes a range of different templates you can select from that you can then customize with images, logos, colors. You can personalize with your company information. So linking back to your website, including any documents, videos, PDFs, or marketing materials that you want to promote. You can promote your job postings, either linking to your job page or having them actually posted there and people can apply. Unlimited company representatives, so as many people as you want to man that booth and do that engagement, we can absolutely set that up. And we talked about it already, you get that kind of opportunities to chat and engage with the job seekers, but also with other employers as well. And we have a candidate resume bank. So if you're looking to fill some opportunities in your organization, you can search the resumes of everybody there and see who kind of tickles your fancy. So if you're interested in exhibiting as an employer, please do reach out after the presentation and I can talk to you about different opportunities that we have. As an attendee, it's a no-brainer. It's free to attend. You get that series of webinars and content available up to 30 days afterwards. You get to upload your resume, so you get to be visible to all of the employers. You get to connect and do the networking piece that we talked about. We're also going to have a range of competitions, prizes, and games to help make it engaging and hopefully fun. It's compatible with all mobile devices as well. So no matter if you want to access on your phone, your tablet, your laptop, it will work on everything. And really important for virtual events, there's going to be real-time support there. So both technical support and the Eco Canada team will be there as well to answer any questions that you have on the day and make sure you get the most out of your virtual career fair experience. The next event I want to talk about is Eco Canada's flagship conference, Eco Impact. We've hosted Eco Impact for 4 years now, and we're normally a face-to-face conference and awards ceremony celebration. But this year we're going virtual and we're going to be using the VFairs platform again, which is great because it gives it that engagement and that kind of visual feel that we want. We're going to continue to build and grow. So the great thing about going virtual is it takes all the travel and accommodation costs away from attending a conference, and it makes it really accessible all across Canada. You can access it from your home. If you want to, participate in your pajamas, you absolutely can. We'd love to have you dressed from the waist up. Our theme this year is People, Planet, Profit, Finding the Balance. And all of our content and presentations will be focused on how do we as environmental professionals find the balance between these three key elements and really drive sustainable economic growth. In addition to our conference program, we're also having our annual awards ceremony as well. So it's part learning, part networking, and part celebration of our wonderful members. So it's going to be January 28th. It's a full day event. And I just wanted to share some of the presentations and topics that we're going to be having content on. So it's a jam-packed day with lots of different technical sessions. As an attendee, you get to pick and choose which you want to attend live, and then you can watch the rest on demand. And we're going to be focusing on some of the key environmental trends for 2021. So the blue economy, the clean tech sector, climate change, the economic recovery in Canada and how we make sure that that's green, how we future-proof the environmental workforce to address some of the challenges we've just talked about, skills for success, which is going to be focusing on different digital skills and the importance of digital skills in the environmental field, energy transition, where does Canada want the future of its energy sector to be, and of course that awards piece and celebrating our wonderful finalists. So this slide just kind of focuses on the awards segment, and we have 5 different categories. The top 4 are for our Eco Canada members and employers and recognize kind of outstanding achievements and projects over the last year. And what I really wanted to highlight today was our new award. We have a brand new category this year. It's called the Eco Community Impact Award. And it's brand new and it's focusing on volunteer groups. You don't have to be a member, you don't have to be affiliated with Eco Canada. It's focusing on community-led or volunteer projects who are looking to, make an environmental impact and improve things for the communities. So it could be like an education initiative, it could be a renewable project implemented by an Indigenous community, lots of different options. So if you volunteer or you know an organization that you think would apply here, please do reach out afterwards and I'd love to send them the details. It's a great way to recognize the wonderful work that the organizations and charities and volunteer groups are doing across the country. And it's a wonderful, you go up for the award, but there's some great prizes as well. So please do reach out after the presentation if you're interested in more information in the Community Impact Award. Now, the final, I know you've listened to me talk for a long time now, so before I hand over to Arbaiza, I just want to talk about our final kind of new virtual piece, which is our virtual live workshops. And this is brand new for 2020. We have a history at Eco Canada of doing face-to-face instructor-led workshops, and we wanted to find a way to continue to do that and provide professional development opportunities for environmental professionals during COVID-19. So this was our solution, and we use a fully interactive format and setting that recreates all the benefits that you would get at a face-to-face workshop in a virtual setting. So we have wonderful instructors from all across Canada, groups of about 20, and we try and recreate some of those activities that you would expect from a workshop. So breakout sessions, resources, homework, group discussions are all included. So we have a program of virtual workshops that we're currently planning into next year. Our next one starts November 3rd, and it's called Winning the Proposal: Strategies to Write a Successful Grant. And then we have technical writing coming up in December. And if you're interested in any of our virtual workshops or learning opportunities, please do reach out afterwards and we can send you the full calendar and details. So I'm going to hand over to Arbaiza now, who's going to talk about some of our wage funding programs.
Thank you, Hannah. Hello, everyone. Arbaiza here. As you can, well, I know it takes time for you to process and digest what Hannah has said, but there you go. There's a lot of opportunity coming up. And I am excited to share with you about one of many greatest things that EcoCanada do in my presentation. I'm going to talk about the wage funding program. So what is wage funding program? As the delivery partner of the federal government for over 20 years, we have been connecting environmental employer and skilled junior talent through employment programs that offer wage subsidy to drive valuable on-the-job work experience and essential skills training. We've funded over 7,500 jobs for youth and distributed over 50 million to employers since 2002. Let me show you what I mean. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. I'm trying to find my slide here. Just 1 second. So as we recall, one of Hannah's slides regarding the green job opportunity and what's coming up in the next 10 years, I do get many questions. And one of them is, how will I compete to find and retain skilled talent? That's from the employer perspective, right? So this is how you compete. Allow you as an employer to grow capacity by leveraging wage funding and save on staffing costs, to provide the next generation of environmental professionals with the information, skills, and work experience they need to kickstart their career, and to drive valuable on-the-job experience and essential skills learning. On the next slide, please. Thank you. So what kind of employment program do we offer? Currently, we have 4 types of employment program: student work placement, the co-op program, digital skills for youth. This is totally a new program. Youth in Natural Resources, and Science Horizon Internship Program. Like I mentioned earlier, for over 20 years, EcoCanada has been connecting environmental employers and skilled junior talent through employment program. So 220,000 jobs will be filled by qualified practitioners by 2029. So there's a lot of opportunity in the future is bright. If you're going to be environmental sector, that's what I mean. Next slide. Thank you. Oopsie. Now, I would like to chat about the student work placement. In short, we call it co-op program. So what is a co-op program? If you're an employee who wants to hire a student to leverage their skills and talent while they are still in school, co-op program is for you. And for a student who wants to get work experience and while still studying, this is for you. Under co-op program, work terms are flexible. We are able to support paid placement as short as 6 weeks to a maximum of 16 weeks that are full-time or part-time. Employer can apply for back-to-back placement for the same student. Students do not have to be enrolled in their school's co-op program to participate, and there is no age restriction. So the good thing is that if you are a master's student, PhD student, you are eligible to apply under a co-op program. And student employee are required to find their own co-op placement. And guess what? Fall application is now open. So you will receive up to $7,500, which funding to hire new talent is in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Next slide. I did mention about the digital skills for youth. This is a funding for full-time jobs. Application is now open. This is a totally new funding program, and it covers 100% of candidate salary up to a maximum of $25,000 for environmental jobs that require digital abilities. So as Hannah mentioned, digital skill will be something that will be in demand going forward in an environmental sector. So this would be a great opportunity for you as a recent graduate or job seeker to leverage, to be proactive and try to apply to be a pre-approved candidate and find an employer that has been approved for these digital skills for youth. And also, as Hannah mentioned just now, this would be a great opportunity for your resume, for you to stand out, to have that pre-approved wage funding program with EcoCanada on your resume. That's going to be a great asset for you. So I did say that 100% of candidate salary up to $25,000. So I will share with you the eligibility, not all of it, just to give you an idea. A clean tech innovation and sustainable technology initiative, digital marketer aiming to promote environmental businesses, developer that create apps or software related to environmental education, GHG specialist in charge of predictive modeling or the analysis of emissions, drone operator that monitor remote well sites or wildlife corridors, and the list can go on. But you know what? Please visit our website or reach out to me or Hannah. We will provide you our contact information, and I will more than happy to assist. In addition to the DS4Y, you as an employee will get $4,000 out of $25,000 for training and equipment allowance. This program is designed to meet the needs for medium-sized company under 500 employees. And placement would be minimum of 3 months in length and must end by March 31st of 2021. For the candidates under this program, intern must be 30 years old and younger, Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or whole refugee status. They must be unemployed, underemployed, or hold part-time employment. Next slide. Youth in natural resources. In short, we call it YNR. This is also funding for full-time jobs. Receive up to $25,500 if it's a wage subsidy to hire new talent in STEM or natural resources. Currently, we are full for the placement, but the application will open in spring of 2021. There's 4 sectors that will fall under this wage funding program. The first sector is energy, the second is forest sector, the third one is minerals and metal, and the fourth one is earth science. But like I said, if you have any questions, reach out to me, or there's a lot more resources on our website that you can read, and send me an email if you have questions. Last but not least, the Science Horizon Internship, SHI, funding for full-time. Same thing, this wage funding is full right now, but it will open again spring of 2021. Receive up to $15,000 wage subsidy to hire new talent in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Example of role would be Under science, environmental coordinator, research assistant to assess climate change impact. In engineering, a design engineer to develop environmental monitoring equipment for greenhouse gas. Mathematic, home energy modular. In technology, software designer that creates smart grid technologies, GIS analyst, and that is just to name a few. I did say, unfortunately, this program is also full right now and will open again next year. Stay tuned. Next slide. Success story. We have excellent rate with our funding program. We have excellent success rate with our funding programs. We have many employers that keep their interns on full time after the funding has ended. And several of these interns are now in the managers and owners using the same funding to hire for their team. So it's like a circle, right? Some of our host employers have been with us for over a decade. We are lucky that way. For the candidates, this is the opportunity to obtain, your first meaningful work experience. Not only do you have the opportunity to provide them with experience, but to also set them up for long-term career growth. Next slide, Hannah. Awesome. Well, that's it from me, but I would like to mention our funder for making these programs possible. Natural Resources Canada for our youth employment in natural resources, Environment and Climate Change Canada for Science Horizon Youth Internship Program, Innovation, Science and Economy Development Canada for Digital Skills for Youth, the S for Y, and Employment and Social Development Canada for co-op student placement. So we can't thank enough for our funder for making this program possible. Perfect. That's all from me. And thank you to Leading Change Canada for organizing the webinar and letting me and my colleague Hannah share information about EcoCanada Employment Outlook 2029. Please find our contact information and feel free to reach out to us with questions. Thank you for your time. Back to you, Hannah.
Thanks, Arbaiza. Just to reiterate, any questions, we love to talk to professionals, to job seekers, to employers. Please do reach out. And I'll hand over to Megan. I think we have some time for questions now.
Yeah, we have some time for some questions. So if you do have a burning question, please feel free to put it in the chat and we'll get to them. And then we also collected some questions in advance, so we can run through those as well. I think I'll probably prioritize those that are coming in the chat first. So we have one from Jenna, who, as I understand, is a US citizen currently studying in Canada. And Jenna would like to know if any of these kind of opportunities for funding that you've mentioned, or maybe some of the other other opportunities that you've mentioned early in their presentation are available for folks that maybe aren't a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or refugee.
Yeah, I believe, Arbaiza, correct me if I'm wrong, that the wage funding opportunities that we have, you have to be permanent resident, citizen, or refugee. So if you're on a work permit, they're not applicable right now, but feel free to reach out. But things like the job fair as a way to kind of meet employers and understand the sector better is definitely applicable and open to everybody. So I don't know if you've got anything you want to add, Arbaiza.
I would agree because, for now, we do not, that's part of the federal requirement that they have to be a Canadian citizen, PR, and refugee status, but the networking will help you to meet with employer. And I suggest come to our, what is the fair that we have, that November 25th,
Great. Yeah, and I see a similar question from Greta, just asking about programs and internships open to international students. So I imagine that's kind of a similar response there, to take advantage of those free or those open opportunities that EcoCanada offers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. As Arbaiza said, our funding comes from the federal government, and it comes with like a set of criteria that candidates have to meet. So, but do look for those other opportunities to get active and get present and understand the Canadian sector if that's where you want your future career to be.
Perfect.
Maybe it's worth to mention that we did have immigrant bridging program at some point, but we don't have funder at right now.
Yeah,
Couple
absolutely.
years ago. Yeah.
We do get different funding streams at different times, so it's worth just keeping in touch. We have a newsletter you can sign up to on eco.ca that gives you kind of monthly updates with what's happening and as and when kind of new funding streams become available.
Great. Another question here from Brianna, who I believe is asking this as an employer. So for the digital skills for youth, the current program is for placements that end March 31st, 2021. Just wondering if either of you anticipate another round of this funding for this particular program being available in 2021, and if there's any details there. I think kind of it's largely with the context of, you know, around planning and staffing.
I'll defer to Arbaiza. I think we potentially have a small pool of funding for next year, which is slightly smaller than the pool we had this year, but I'll let Arbaiza answer that question.
Yes, I would say stay tuned, like I mentioned in my slide, because I think if you can reach back to me by I think March, April timeframe, I probably will have more information. Right now, as I said, we've been doing this for 20 something years. So as a delivery partners, and we have a very good reputation with the government, I would say. And I don't want to say yes, but please check back with me by that time, like a few months before. I will have more information for you.
Great, thank you. Question here from Megan, great name. So after completing a BA in human environment, what post-undergrad certificates or programs are useful to complete in order to be valuable to employers? And also if you have any insight on job opportunities in Quebec.
Absolutely, Megan, if we can get your details afterwards from the organizers, I can send you the outlook for Quebec. And I believe we're having a French outlook webinar, which is going to talk about Quebec opportunities at Eco Canada in December as well. So I can send you those details. I think it's a great question about kind of post-secondary qualifications. And I think it really depends on what your job aim is in terms of your career and where you want to go. So we do work with Royal Roads University, and they have some great programs that focus on things like climate change, science and policy, which would be great if you want to kind of diversify and go down that route. But I would recommend that you think about what your career objectives are and what, like, maybe if there's a part of the environmental sector that interests you more, and then perhaps looking at kind of what the qualifications are required to kind of go down that route. But happy if you want to reach out to me afterwards and we can have a chat offline around what you want to do and the best routes to get there.
Cool.
Can I add something to that? Well, probably just go look at the EPT designation as well. That could help too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, because I find that very helpful, just, you know, to get the bigger picture of what is environmental sector. Like you see, we have two different workforce. And for example, like myself, I'm under the good and services workforce, but still I can be an EPT.
Absolutely.
Great. A question here from Coco. Is Eco Canada currently hiring?
That's a very good question. We have, because we have so many government projects right now, we have been hiring over the last few months, so we can absolutely in the follow-up email send a link to our job board. I'll ask to see if Arbaiza knows if we have opportunities.
Yes, we
now.
do.
We do.
We do. We need a digital CRM administrator, I believe. That's one that I can remember on top of my head right now. But yeah, just go to Eco website and our job board.
Great. So I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat, although if you do have questions, please feel free to put them in. We've maybe got time for one or two more from the questions that were submitted in advance. So I'm wondering, you know, got a question here from Payal in Vancouver. They're an architect, and they're wondering, in their role, how can they contribute to sustainability? And I guess kind of more broadly for folks on the line, for someone who is currently employed, and they maybe want to transform or sort of pivot their work to be a green job. What are some of the things that they can do?
Yeah. Do you want to take a go, Arbaiza?
I would say transferable skills.
Yeah.
Such as communication, project management, technical writing.
The transferable skills, if you're transitioning from a different sector, you may feel like, I don't have the experience in the environmental sector. It's quite daunting, but I would recommend that you take a look at the experience that you do have and pull out those transferable skills, because they are very important and very relevant to environmental roles. And at the end of the day, you can learn technical knowledge, but those transferable skills and demonstrating that the experience you have with them is really valuable to employers. So I wouldn't shy from kind of using that experience, or any volunteer experience you have, co-op experience that you can kind of demonstrate those transferable skills with, if you're looking to transition. And I think the architecture question is really interesting, and we're getting asked this question quite a lot at the moment, is how architecture can play a role in kind of sustainability. And it absolutely has a role to play in terms of, sustainable green building design is becoming more and more prominent, and definitely kind of keeping up to date with the latest trends. And as an architect, your role in kind of building sustainable, energy efficient buildings is super important, and it definitely contributes towards sustainability.
It's funny you mentioned that, Hannah, because I'm also doing in my prospecting, like I'm prospecting for the green builders for the DS4Y, just to get from different segment of environment. And yeah, so there's a lot of question, a lot of people that interested to know more about how can, our expertise and how can we contribute and things like that. So wage funding program would be the best, and other things that it could does.
And one of our Eco Impact Award winners from last year was actually a lady who designs a part of a project for a post-secondary institution, is designing an eco house. So it definitely is. It's something that probably will become more and more frequent in the years to come.
Great. Well, speaking of Eco Impact Awards, we have a question here from Diana. For the Community Impact Award that was mentioned, who would submit an application for that? Should it be the lead of the organization, or it can be just someone who's volunteered or has a touch point with the project?
Yeah, absolutely. It can be either. So as part of the submission, we are asking for a video just telling us about your project. It doesn't need to be fancy or produced. It can just be something you do yourselves, but telling us about the group, the project. I think if you're a volunteer thinking of nominating a project that you're working on, I would just run it past your group leaders just to make sure you have the buy-in. But yeah, absolutely. And I'm happy if you want to reach out to me afterwards to provide more information. Because I love seeing all these projects and initiatives that are happening across the country, and I think it's really important that they get recognized for the wonderful work that they're doing. So please do reach out, Diana, if you want to talk about your project in particular and how we can get a nomination submitted.
Yeah, we've been sharing the award opportunity with our network, and one of the cool perks associated with winning is, I believe, getting like a professional video done to kind of showcase the organization's work, which is great.
Absolutely. We have a wonderful creative marketing company that we work with who will come out and do a professional video all about your project and the team and celebrating the wonderful things that you've done that you can then have as a great resource for your community. And you get the actual award as well.
Great. Well, I think with that, we're approaching the end of our time here together. So if we can advance to the next slide. We would like to kind of share some ways to kind of keep the momentum in these conversations going. We do encourage you to stay in touch and connect through, both Eco Canada and Leading Change's social media channels. I think that's where both of us tend to to share these opportunities, and great way, as well as I think Hannah mentioned, sign up for listservs to receive the latest news. And as mentioned, this webinar has been recorded. In the next few days, you'll all be receiving an email from us that'll have the link to the recording, the slides, as well as any of the resources and programs that have been mentioned during this session. So final slide here. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. First, a big virtual round of applause to Arbaiza and Hannah for generously sharing your knowledge and answering questions. And of course, thank you to all of our attendees, because if you chose to take the time today to be with us, it means you're investing in yourself and your personal growth or the growth of your organization. And we really hope that each of you learned something today, and have something that you can carry forward or act on.
A pleasure.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.